At the very beginning, a girl is seen asking her mother for help because the two sisters were drowning while swimming. As they started sinking, her younger sister lost consciousness. The scene then transitions to reality. In fact, many years have passed since this incident. However, the elder sister, Era, has not been able to forget it. She is now married and the mother of 2 children. On the other hand, the younger sister, Tuva, is a ship mechanic. Tuva is seen fixing a machine beneath a ship when it suddenly starts running. Gradually, the machine tries to pull her toward it, but Tuva manages to free herself with great difficulty. Anyway, after a long time, the 2 sisters and their mother are seen together again. They plan to spend some time together on vacation. Since their parents had separated, Era grew up with their father, while Tuva was raised by their mother. After spending a day at home, the sisters set out on an adventure the next day. They drive through a landscape of snow-covered mountains and an open sky, an incredibly beautiful sight. After driving a considerable distance, they stop in front of a rushing river. They begin preparing for underwater diving. Tuva explains to Era where they will start swimming and where they will stop. She also inflates a small balloon and ties it to the riverbank to ensure they don't lose their way. Then, they are seen swimming underwater beneath the mountain. The environment is dark and eerie. Tuva confidently leads the way because she has been on this route with their mother before. But for Era, it's her first time here, and she feels a bit nervous. After swimming some distance, they come out of the water and talk for a while. During the conversation, Era becomes extremely angry with Tuva over a simple remark. Since Era grew up with their father and lacked their mother's affection during her childhood, her temperament is somewhat irritable. After this, they start swimming again. They pass through a narrow tunnel and reach a deeper area. Tuva mentions that they need to swim for only 3 more minutes before they can surface. Here, they spot whales beneath the deep sea and feel delighted as this sight is rare and mesmerizing for them. However, a rock suddenly falls from above. In mountainous areas, such incidents occur occasionally. Tuva warns Era to stay alert, but they don't pay much attention to it. Before Tuva finishes speaking, more massive rocks begin falling from above, and this becomes nothing short of a terrifying disaster. Such large rocks only fall when there's a landslide. At this moment, a huge rock falls on Tuva, dragging her to the bottom of the water. In this way, the 2 sisters become separated. They can only hear each other's voices. Era doesn't give up. She dives down to 108 feet below the surface to find her sister. Meanwhile, Tuva keeps guiding Era on how to locate her because she is trapped in an unknown place. Even Tuva herself doesn't know exactly where she is. Luckily, the rock hasn't crushed her. However, Era has only 35% of her oxygen left, which will run out very soon. So, whatever needs to be done must be done within this short time. Fortunately, following Tuva's instructions, Era sees the light after a while and reaches her sister. But Tuva is trapped under a rock in such a way that Era alone cannot move the rock to free her sister. While she manages to move a small rock, the larger one is immovable. So Tuva asks her to go up and seek help. Until then, Tuva must stay there. Era creates a protective ring of lights around her sister because the water might have various aquatic creatures, and deep water creatures avoid coming near light. When Era surfaces, she finds another dreadful situation. It's snowing outside, and the necessary items are buried under rocks due to a landslide. Despite her efforts, Era fails to retrieve items like the phone or car keys from under the rocks. At that moment, she only has a communication device to talk to her sister underwater. Using it, Era informs Tuva of the entire situation. Following Tuva's advice, Era sets a 15-minute timer on her watch and rushes to their car. She breaks the car window with a rock to retrieve 2 oxygen cylinders, knowing that even if no other help arrives, at least they'll have oxygen. Tuva's oxygen cylinder underwater is about to run out, so the extra cylinder will buy them more time to survive. Unfortunately, Era cannot find the car jack, which is a tool used to lift the car to change tires. She tears apart the car seats and even tries breaking the trunk lock with rocks to find the jack. After exhausting all efforts, she fails and takes the 2 oxygen cylinders back to the water within the 15-minute window. As Era descends, a plane flies over the lake. She waves and calls for help repeatedly, but no one notices her from such a height. While entering the water with the cylinders, she waves at the plane again, feeling that someone on board might have seen her signal. However, during this, one of the oxygen cylinders gets lost in the water. Despite this, Era reaches Tuva underwater and gives her the oxygen cylinder she has because Tuva would otherwise die without oxygen. But the problem is that one cylinder won't last long. Era decides to breathe small amounts of oxygen while searching for the lost cylinder. If her breath runs out, she plans to use Tuva's cylinder briefly before resuming the search. Although this process of sharing oxygen is dangerous, they have no other option. Fortunately, Era finds the lost cylinder a short distance away, but she gets disoriented on her way back. She eventually finds her way using a ribbon tied to a rock underwater. Once back, Era takes her oxygen support from Tuva and surfaces again to seek help from the plane. But the plane is gone. Now, Era has two options. Find the carjack to lift the rock and rescue her sister, or find the nearest settlement on the map and bring help from there. Meanwhile, due to continuous swimming, fatigue, and staying in deep water without proper oxygen, Era begins to feel unwell. However, she reaches the car and tries to open the trunk with rocks but fails again. Left with no choice, she takes the map and heads toward the nearest settlement. The area appears deserted, so she breaks a window to enter a house. A dog attacks her as she enters, and to defend herself, Era stabs the dog with a knife. The dog collapses on the floor, but its bite tears Era's swimming suit. Ignoring her injury, she tries connecting to a signal on the house's laptop, but due to bad weather, there's no internet connection. She writes a plea for help, including the name of their stranded location, and takes an object from the house to open the car trunk before leaving. Returning to the car, Era uses the tool to open the trunk and finds a bottle containing a foam spray. The spray is designed to temporarily seal punctures in car tires. But Era wonders, what use is this to me? She desperately wants to find the jack to move the rock trapping her sister. Feeling defeated, she pulls herself together and grabs a bamboo pole nearby. However, before diving back into the water, she uses plastic tape from the car to fix her torn swimming suit with the foam spray. As Era prepares to dive with two oxygen cylinders, she accidentally drops one into the water again. Meanwhile, Tuva's oxygen is running low, and she could die at any moment. Era quickly dives in and reaches Tuva. With all her strength, she tries to move the rock using the bamboo pole. Her efforts exhaust nearly all the oxygen in her tank. The bamboo pole breaks under the rock's weight, and when she tries to use the second oxygen tank, she discovers it's damaged and locked from hitting a rock earlier. Era's oxygen is almost out, and Tuva urges her to leave and save herself. But Era refuses to abandon her sister to die. After discussing, the sisters agree to share the remaining oxygen. Tuva starts using the oxygen sparingly, letting Era take some when hers runs out. But Tuva, wanting to save her elder sister, refuses to take oxygen herself, willing to sacrifice her life. Realizing this, Era lets go of the oxygen and surfaces, risking her own life. She vomits and bleeds from her nose and mouth due to prolonged underwater exposure and lack of oxygen. Weak and disoriented, Era suddenly remembers the foam spray and heads back to Tuva. Using the spray, she inflates an airbag under the rock and inserts the broken pole for support. As the rock lifts slightly, it loosens, and together, the sisters finally push it away. Their long struggle ends in success. After that, they both started ascending while taking oxygen from a cylinder at regular intervals. But after covering some distance, Tuva informs her sister that she must wait in that spot for 30 minutes. Otherwise, the rapid ascent could cause her death. On top of that, they don't have sufficient oxygen to make it to the surface. Then, Tuva retrieves their jammed oxygen cylinder. She breaks it open, and together they release the oxygen gas in that area. Moments later, blood starts pouring heavily from Era's nose and mouth. She loses consciousness. Seeing this, Tuva becomes extremely frightened. Somehow she manages to bring her sister to the surface. At that moment, a helicopter appears overhead. The helicopter has come to rescue them. Fortunately, a few moments after reaching the shore, Era regains consciousness. Despite all the obstacles and life-threatening risks, the two sisters ultimately survive. And with this scene, the movie comes to an end.